I hope that when people enter my exhibition, they see a world that's familiar but different from their everyday lives. It's a world where everything is intermingled, where the boundaries are blurred, even collapsed in some places. I'm interested in why we need these boundaries that separate us from the world around us. And it seems that now is the time where these boundaries are collapsing anyway, that the relationships between us and other animals seem really, really strong. We share so much. And I question, what it is that makes us feel so different and perhaps special. Special enough that we might want to treat our environment and the other animals on the planet in the way we do. I guess my ultimate dream for the viewer is that they experience a new emotion. And this emotion we don't even have a name for. And this emotion is the realization inside of your body that you've warmed to something that you originally felt a bit kind of suspicious of, or wary, or even scared. And I think that that's an emotion that we rarely feel, to warm to something that you might be frightened of. I mean, there's a reason why I make these chimeras, because they embody difference, and the work is about how we relate to difference. And ultimately, it's about care. My work is about relationships with other animals, the environment, and our bodies. And so in the exhibition there are many relationships depicted. A lot of them are ones around nurturing. I kind of valorize these relationships, and I find that they're often missing in the world around us. We don't see them reflected back to us. And so that's why there are many relationships between mothers and children, between lovers, because these are fundamentally caring relationships. And I really value them, and they embody love. And love is one of the things that can destroy boundaries. And in this world where everything is intermixed, one of the things I'm asking is, can we still invest in the kinds of boundaries that make up our identity between us and other creatures, us even and objects, us and the environment? Can we invest in these definitions when they're collapsing? And we know this through science, and we know these things through what feels right. And I try and give these relationships space, and so valorize them. I'm interested in science because it's a way of understanding the world. It's like the biggest way that we understand the world. In the past it was religion or mythology, but now it seems to be science, and it's telling us a lot about ourselves, such as we share a lot of DNA with all the other creatures that we share the planet with. And also we evolved not just with other creatures but with plants, and we have a collaborative evolution. And at the same time, through science, we can now change the nature around us. And so we're living at an amazing time that we understand it and we can change it. And we are changing it. And I'm interested in talking about with other people. And at its best, my work is a catalyst for this kind of conversation. Talking about the kinds of relationships that we can have with the nature that we change around us. That's what I'm interested in. And our duty of care to the life that we change around us. How much will we care about it? Will we just change nature to serve us? Or will we change nature for other reasons? And what are those reasons, and what's a good enough reason to change nature in the end? I personally am not against innovation in science, and that's probably because of a personal experience. I grew up in a house where my mother was sick. She had cancer. And so throughout my teenage life and my early adulthood, there was cancer in the house, and then she died. So I understand what it's like to be at the mercy of science, to want science to save a loved one. So I'm not against xenotransplantation or gene therapy. I'm looking forward to it. I welcome it. But at the same time, I'm interested in how these technologies can normalize certain ways of being, can stamp out difference, can prioritize some people, first world people, over others. And that makes me anxious. And I'm interested in how we treat the creatures that we change. And will we just abuse them? Will we exploit them? And what about the mistakes that will inevitably be made? Will we love the failures of these technologies as well as the successes? That's what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in stopping technology. I'm interested in these very ethically oriented, very nuanced situations where there's no right and wrong. And that's why in my work there is no answer. I'm not telling people what to think. I don't have the answers. But I am interested in creating a dialogue around these things with the viewer, because it's not happening anywhere else. And to me, it's what's really important in life. Like how we treat other animals is really important. And even just the idea of caring is really important. Like, if you don't care for stuff, how can we hope to save ourselves from this sort of inevitable environmental destruction that we're sort of marching towards? That's why I focus on care. I am really interested in maternal relationships. I think they're very undervalued, and they are very beautiful and very strong, and they're just a very good example about how we can be with the world, and I don't see them being given much credit in the rest of the world, and that's why I try and do that in my work, because I do value them. I think that a maternal love is really beautiful and powerful and strong, and yeah, the loss of it can be devastating, and maybe that's why I return to it a lot in my work. So every work has many layers. So a work like The Young Family has an ethical dimension. Like here we have a creature that's obviously been created to provide replacement parts for humans. And we look at this creature and we can be, fairly objective and, is this right to change nature just for this purpose, just to help us? Is this the correct thing for us to do? And we can almost have a distance towards this. But then there's another layer to that, and that's this emotional layer, this empathetic layer, where we can empathize with the mother, especially if you are a mother, or even if you've been a child, which we all have been. We look at her and we can see that she's thinking about her children, considering what's going to happen to them in the future, what's to become of them. And then we ask the question, the real question, would you sacrifice her children to save your own? And there is no distance. There is no right and wrong. There is just emotion. And that's not bad. That's how it's going to be. That's why all of these decisions that we're going to make around these new technologies are going to have a big element of that. And I think this work is saying that that's part of it. Because if you asked me, would you cut up this creature to save my son? I would say yes. I would do it. I would sell everything I own to save my son. I would do anything. But it would involve the death of her children. That's shameful. That's not right. But I would do it. And that's being human. And I hope that the work embodies that. So the Kindred is a work about orangutans, and orangutans are incredible nurturers. They stay with their offspring for around 6 years, and they show their offspring the forest and what to eat and when to eat and how to be safe. And I look to them and think, gosh, they're such wonderful mothers. I wish I could be as good as they are. And of course they're endangered. And for kind of stupid reasons, for palm oil plantations. But it's not so stupid because palm oil provides the inhabitants of that area with income, so they can afford the things that we take for granted, like healthcare. So can't really blame people for wanting something that we all have, but it's what's causing the demise of the species. So it's a very loaded area. When I think about the situation, I'm devastated to know that our children will not have orangutans in their lives. And I also feel a lot of shame because I'm responsible for that. Because like everyone, we all eat fast foods full of palm oil. So we are the culprits. And this shame is to me is kind of feels bad in my body, and it paralyzes me. I can't even look at it. So when I made this work, I wanted to make a work that didn't have that shame. And so the orangutan mother, she can hold us in all this knowledge around their demise. She can hold us, and we can see that in the way she's sitting, her posture. We can see the kind of vulnerability that she has. Like, we can see her genitalia. I wouldn't sit like that. But her strong back as well, and the way she holds her babies. She has real fortitude. And she's there, and we look at her and we think, she's different from her children. They're almost at different paths on their sort of animalness level, and because her second child is completely human and her first child is less orangutan, and we think, oh, they're different from each other and from me. But if you spend more time with the work, you realize that in fact it's not about difference. When we look at this beautiful family, this nurturing family with a strong mother that can hold even us in our shame, we realize that it's actually about connection, that they are so connected, and that we can have a connection with them. And this is where you can have that kind of transformative moment where you can go out and act. You can say, no, I'm not going to eat this food with this crap ingredient. I'm not going to do that. So I always think about Mary Shelley. So Mary Shelley was an abolitionist. She didn't believe in slavery. So she didn't eat sugar. The very stuff that made her people wealthy, she didn't eat it. And I just think, yeah, that's a beautiful example. She wrote an important text, Frankenstein, that I've thought a lot about. And I think my work sees the world from the point of view of the monster in the work. And it inspired the couple, because in the novel, the monster finally accepts that his father, Frankenstein, doesn't love him, and he asks Frankenstein for a mate, and Frankenstein says, yes, I'll make you a mate. And he almost completes the job, and the monster's there to collect her, and then Frankenstein sees the monster, and he eviscerates the female in front of his eyes, and the monster just goes crazy. And from then on, there's no going back. Like it's over. There's no redemption. It's just violence. And in the couple, I thought, oh, what would it be like if the monster had his mate and they were together and they had each other? And the reason why Frankenstein did it is because once you give the potential to reproduce to your life forms, your offspring, then you lose control. And he didn't want that. And also the woman, the female, the sexuality of the female monster was maybe too much for anyone to bear. So she had to be destroyed. So in this work, they have each other. And the monster is beautiful. He's so beautiful. And he's also kind of able to rest on the female's shoulder, which is not something we see in contemporary culture. We don't see it ever. It might happen in private. In fact, I know it does. But we don't see it depicted. We don't see a beautiful, strong male able to rest and give over something to a female. And that's why I made this work. So this is the long-awaited, and it's also a relationship between a grandmother type figure and a child. And she's a transgenic creature. She's part dugong and part human. And perhaps she was made to be the carer of this child. Maybe she's looked after him all his life. And I think this work has 3 levels that people can connect to it on. So the first level is the kind of spectacle level, the idea that they look so real, like you can see the pores on their faces and the hair, and just the idea of what she looks like, this amazing chimera, half human, half dugong. And then there's the kind of ethical layer, and the ethical layer is about, well, why is she created, and is it okay to change nature just to serve us, to be a nurturer even? Is that a good thing? Is that what makes this technology valuable to us? And is this part of evolution? Could this be something that could help? Because of course dugongs and manatees are endangered because of global warming. The waters are making it too hot for them to live in. So there's that ethical layer. And then ultimately, and this is the third layer, and I don't believe everyone gets to this layer, but it's definitely part of why I made this work. This work is a embodiment of a kind of intimacy, a kind of love, a depiction of love. And this love is a special love. It's the love that comes from when you allow someone to nurture you. So she's a very strong character because she's allowing the boy to look after her. And to me, that's a really important definition of love, that you allow someone to really know you, know who you are, and to care for you. Because that's quite a hard thing to do in life. Yeah, I think that empathizing with this beautiful, intimate situation can be very life-affirming. And if I had made these sculptures human, somehow it may not be believed. I mean, there is a reason why I make chimeras. I mean, there are many reasons, and one of them is that because we are making chimeras in science all the time. Last year was the first genetically altered pig fetus. So, I mean, it's not a science fiction. It's actually a reality. So we are doing that. But also, when I present creatures of almost like mythologies, it's almost makes it easier for us to identify with them emotionally in a way that we couldn't do with ordinary life, because it would be just too overwhelming. And in this way, I create these myths that people can read and kind of engage with, and even add to. And I make space around these narratives of sexuality or intimacy in a way that possibly we're not able to do in contemporary culture or even in reality. If my mother saw my work, I would like to think that she might be happy to see such a female-oriented view of the world, because I think that her life was really shaped by her gender. Her opportunities in life were very limited because of her gender. And she had so much more potential to live and experience many more things in her short life, but they just weren't there for her because of her gender. And to see this vision, which is very, very feminine. I mean, the whole world is about fecundity, the potential for the production of life. Like everything is a fruiting body. There are flowers, which are the genitals of plants. There are bats, which are pollinators. There are eggs. There are so many births. There are so many parent-child relationships. These are all not only intrinsic to females, but they're kind of a big part of our lives. The idea that I carry eggs is just magical. Like, I just think that's just fucking amazing. And when I carried my daughter, I carried her and her eggs, which is just amazing. It's beautiful. And I think the show kind of brings out this vision in a kind of odd but beautiful way.